that the significant difference in reported unaccounted of water is due to the underbilling of water and using the estimated average consumption. So the company which was sourced out to bill and reading the meters and billing, they just estimate sometimes the reading, and that's which make the unaccounted for water is high. Public authority look for alternative sources of water. This is probably to optimum solution for interruption in the water supply due to the outage of the desalination plant. We have a dam, I think if you visit Oman, there is a dam called Wadi Dhiqa Dam, and this has a big reservoir. Now construction of new purification work, transmission main and booster station to utilize water from the Wadi Dhiqa. Provide additional water to meet the increased demand in Muscat. Provide an alternative source other than desalination plant for security of supply. Provide a cheaper and more sustainable alternative to desalination plant. As you know, in Oman we have depend on the desalination, and from time to time during the year we have the red tide, which is make the desalination plant is not workable because some jellyfish is blocking the intake of the desalination. So we have now alternative, and this is maybe the first project will be in the GCC country that using the service water to supply water during the emergency. This strategic project will be able to provide Muscat with significant quantity of water in case of outage of Al Ghubra desalination plant. Additional water storage in different parts of the government of Muscat. This will increase several resources capacity downstream. The PIW take initiative to build emergency reservoir, and this is all scattered all over to the capital area. This is, we have storage for about 10 days. If anything happened to the desalination plant, we can supply our people with 10 days until the desalination plant come back to normal. Nowadays, we are working on restructuring of because in Oman there is a different entities is responsible for water. Like we have Ministry of Water Resource, it's looking for the resources of water. Public authority is looking for water distribute for drinking water, and we have higher water, it's looking after the sewerage and this. So now we are on the way of restructuring all these utilities as one entity. So PIW continue to active participate in the project intended to restructure of the water and wastewater sector in the whole of the Oman. PIW has provided extensive input into developing the scope of work for the next stage of work, which will fully detail and implement the new structure. Tender for consultant was issued. Consultant appointed by NEMA completed their work on developing an outline structure for the sector. This sets the framework for the next stage and the implementation of the selected structure. This is what I have, because I just did it very quickly last night. This is what I have, and thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Your Excellency. And now we move to Mr. Hamou Labrani, the Senior Expert of Water, Energy, Food Security and Climate Change Nexus, the Economic Sector at the League of Arab States.
شكرا سيدي الرئيس. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon or maybe good evening, because we are getting late in schedule of this session. That is a session on something that is old, but that is new. Nature-based solutions have been always there. But the new thing, of course, is we think on water development as a cause of depletion of ecosystems. The new thing in the report is that ecosystems are solving the water issues and challenges. Very grateful to UNESCO and to Prince Sultan Foundation for putting this translation on. It's a very useful reference. It's a compilation of success stories. The examples we have in the report are providing sufficient evidence that nature-based solutions are cheaper and more sustainable, and nature-friendly solutions with quantified studies and quantification analysis that shows that in terms of comparative advantage, solution based on nature are more profitable, are more sustainable in providing water, in improving water quality, in preventing water disasters, including desertification and floods. And we have quite wealth of evidence in the region and bright spots on how the wetlands are responding to water challenges by providing water to the communities nearby the wetlands in Iraq, and in the other example I'm thinking of is the engineered wetlands in Manzala in Egypt, where water coming from sewage and from agricultural drainage canals is treated in those wetlands and is used to productive uses, including aquaculture. So we do have examples, but those are limited number of stories that we can think of across the region as bright spots in making use of natural endowments for provision of water, for protecting water resources and improving water quality in a sustainable manner. The cities, unfortunately, are not moving the same direction in the region because of the demand for land. Quite many ecosystems, particularly aquatic ecosystems, have been used and transformed to urban development in terms of construction. So we need to probably get some inspiration on examples compiled in the report on how to make our cities resilient by using nature-based solutions for water supply and water treatment. The SDGs, as we all know, that there are more than 5 SDGs that are touching to environment challenges and how we can combine the basic services and the ecosystem services in a sustainable way, in a cost-effective way. I think I will launch a call to bring this report not only to the water community, because resilient cities are meeting in other places, and people interested in coordination and integration between SDGs are not only water community. So we should bring this kind of global experience in making use of nature-based solutions for water supply in a sustainable manner to urban development crowd, but also to agriculture and food security people. Agriculture is both in the region, both a water consumer, and also it has contributed in some situations to the depletion of aquatic ecosystems that used to be a source of water of good quality for human consumption and for other productive uses. طبعا I will now shift to Arabic with your apologies. مجلس وزراء المياه العرب المسؤولين عن شؤون البيئة يعني يدرج العديد من هذه المقترحات كبنود على جدول أعماله، وأعتقد أن عرض مثل هذه التقارير على المجالس من باب الإحاطة ومن باب تقاسم الخبرات قد يكون فكرة تساعد على الانتقال بهذه التقارير من مستوى تقارير إلى مستوى أفكار تستلهم مشاريع على مستوى صناع القرار. طبعا الحلول المستمدة من الطبيعة في معالجة قضايا المياه أعتقد أن من بين التحديات المطروحة علينا كمنطقة هي أن عادة ما تناط مهمة حماية المنظومات الإيكولوجية في المنطقة العربية بالمجتمع المدني، يعني أن استثمارات الدول لا زالت رغم ما حصل من تطور في السنين الأخيرة لا زالت لا ترقى إلى مستوى الاستثمارات المطلوبة لحماية المنظومات الإيكولوجية، خصوصا التي يمكن أن تستمد منها حلول لمشكلة المياه. فيتم نقل مسؤولية حماية المنظومة الإيكولوجية إلى المجتمع المدني دون نقل الموارد الضرورية لإنجاز هذه المسؤوليات. فأعتقد أن مطالبون على مستوى المنطقة للتعاون بين جميع الشركاء بما فيهم الحكومات والمجتمع المدني والقطاع الخاص. القطاع الخاص في المنطقة يعتبر من الشركاء الذين يعتبرون مسؤولين عن تراجع المنظومة البيئية بشكل عام والمائية منها بشكل خاص، ولكن لا يسهمون بما هو مطلوب في إيجاد الحلول التي تؤثر سلبا المواضيع التي تؤثر سلبا على المنظومات الإيكولوجية. أخيرا أود أن أجدد شكري لليونسكو على هذا المجهود، وتوفير تقرير من هذا المستوى باللغة العربية أعتقد أنه قيمة مضافة من الناحية المعرفية وكذلك من ناحية تبادل الخبرات بيننا كمنطقة وبين باقي العالم، وإن كنت لا أرى الكثير من الأمثلة التي أشرت إليها متضمنة في هذا التقرير، ولكن أعتقد أن أكيد أن عرض التقرير لابد أن يشير إلى أن هناك كذلك في المنطقة العربية نماذج، وإن كانت مناهج محدودة ويمكن حصرها على مستوى الدول، ولكن هناك قصص نجاح لاعتماد حلول مستمدة من الطبيعة لحل مشكلة المياه على الأقل على مستوى المجتمعات المحلية، ناهيك عن فرص الشغل، ناهيك عن الأنشطة المدرة للدخل للمرأة ودورها في تحقيق العدالة الاجتماعية. كل هذه العناصر موجودة في نماذج يمكن اعتبارها حالات ريادية في المنطقة العربية. وأجدد شكري مرة أخرى لليونسكو وللمنظمين وشكرا.
شكرا مستر حمو الأمراني على هذه التقديم. And now we move to the keynote presentation by Professor Dr. Stefan Ulbrook, coordinator of UNESCO World Water Assessment Program. Stefan.
Assalamu alaikum, good afternoon. It's a pleasure for me to present quickly the main results of this report, which I will have to do in English. It's an Arab report that we launched, but unfortunately I have to do it in English. The World Water Development Report, it's a series of reports. Every year nowadays we do an annual thematic report, always on different topics. In the first couple of years it was a big compendium, like the last one had 900 pages, came out every 3 years, and now it's an annual report either on water and energy, water sustainability, water and jobs. In 2016, it was the first report where I was involved as the coordinator of the program. And wastewater, which was translated into Arabic and presented last year. And today it's a distinct pleasure to present the nature-based solution report and the main findings. And very shortly, in a bit more than 3 weeks, we're going to launch the 2019 report just before World Water Day on leaving no one behind. It will be presented at the Human Rights Council in Geneva on the 19th March. Well, I could stand here and say, you know, there's a huge water crisis, we have limited water resources, it's getting worse because of climate change and other drivers. There's a water quality issue which is dramatic, which is further reducing the amount of water that we cannot use anymore. And I wanted to show you a short movie, it's 30 seconds, and unfortunately there's no movie, no music, the connection didn't work. So I'll just keep on talking, but maybe you had the chance to see some of the Arab translation of it. And in a nutshell, it reminds us of the power of nature to solve water problems. Why that? What do we mean with nature-based solutions? Nature-based solutions are either solutions, it's the nature itself that does the job, or it's a way that we engineer or proactively manage natural processes to solve water management objectives. So it's not so important if it's pristine nature or proactively managed, but it's the nature that actually helps us solving water problems, and it could be either storing water in the subsurface, in the soil or the groundwater, or constructed wetland, or engineered other riparian buffer strips, etc. I come to some examples later. They all help us to solve water management problems. Why? Why are ecosystems so central for solving water or hydrological problems? If you look at the hydrological cycle, as we all learned it in school, you know, all the processes from the precipitation to the interception of rainfall, the infiltration of water to the ground, the either storage of water in the ground or the lateral movement or percolation down to the groundwater, this is all driven by the climate, the soil, and very much by ecological processes, because they all depend on each other. And the land use plays a particular role for all this, and therefore vegetation interactions with climate and soils are really defining how water is transferred to the environment, and also how during that transformation process, water quality is actually changed. Land use is so critical. This is a map which I always like to show, and that shows the precipitation. Oops, I must do it fast. This shows the amount of precipitation that is falling in a given spot of the world, which actually comes from continental resources. The classical picture is that there's evaporation above the sea and the clouds are blown into the country, and then there's rain, which is true to 70% of the time. But the other rainfall actually comes from continental sources. Well, if you look at the Arab region, and MENA region, Western Asia here, that it's largely continental, it's largely from the sea, that's true. But all the water resources that we have to manage in this part of the world are often coming from the hinterland, from the areas behind it. And what you see here, this is the Nile Basin, just as an example. And we know that more than 80% of the flow in Aswan comes from the Ethiopian highlands. So whatever water management we do in Ethiopia has huge implications on water availability in the whole Nile and for some 300 million people. And if you look then at the Ethiopian highlands, it's that where the rainfall is falling for the Nile Basin, that actually comes to a large percentage also from continental sources. And in some earlier studies, we looked at particle tracker, and we looked at isotopic composition of water, and we studied that, and it's quite interesting that in the three main seasons you have in the Ethiopian highlands, some water fluxes, precipitation come certainly from the Indian Ocean, almost nothing from the Mediterranean Sea, but also a significant amount of the rainfall falling in the Ethiopian highlands comes actually from South Sudan, Congo Basin, Uganda, etc. You see water management in this part of the Eastern Africa and Central Africa is very important for rainfall in Ethiopian highlands, discharge generation from there, and therefore water resources availability for Sudan and Egypt. So everything is connected also beyond the basin through evaporation fluxes. While evaporation is so important and the ecosystems, including land use, is so important. Well, there's a huge degradation. Some 2/3 of the natural wetlands, for instance, have been lost over the last 100 years. And forest, while still is 30%, and there is reforestation efforts, a large part of the forest actually is degraded. Let me come to some water management objectives that we can achieve with nature-based solutions. And the first is making water available. The previous speakers all mentioned that of the critical role of storing water. It can be done to a classical engineering approach through a dam, and that often is sometimes the best and the only good solution that works. But on the other hand, there's other ways to enhance water supply through storing water in the environment, either natural lakes, in the groundwater, etc., etc. Or improving water availability through aquaculture. Nature-based solutions have a role to play. Globally, we have to increase the food production by some 40 to 50% in the next 30 years. And there's not 40 to 50% arable land just waiting there to get cultivated. So we have to sustainably intensify food production on the existing land. And through some on-farm solutions, this can nearly be done. It's estimated to be done by 20%, that sustainable increase. At a given farm, we see as soon as we start with rainwater harvesting or improved tillage structure, we can increase the yields even much more. So that 20% estimate is still a conservative estimate for the whole farmlands. Nature-based solutions also in urban areas are very important. Dr. Humann just mentioned it in his speech, and you see here some example how water is stored in urban areas. It improves the groundwater recharge. It improves also the aesthetic and cultural and recreational values of urban areas through better water management, but also sequester carbon and can improve to some extent local flooding. Sponge City is a big program that the Chinese government is currently implementing, which is impressive. Hundreds of millions are currently invested in making cities more green from a water point of view, maybe more blue is maybe the better term here, to store water, to keep water stored and avoid surface runoff as much as possible. But this is not only working in China, this is an example for roof gardening in an Arab city where this can also help with supplementing food supply at a very local scale. Improving water quality, yet another example where nature-based solutions are critical. This is a picture from the Lintani River in Lebanon, where water quality was degrading due to non-functioning wastewater management systems. And through established or constructed wetland, the water quality could be significantly improved up to standards in the effluent water quality, which is comparable to classical wastewater treatment. So it can help in many ways. However, I don't want to oversell nature-based solutions either. This is no silver bullet. There's no panacea with nature-based solutions that solve all the water management problems. If we have highly contaminated water, for instance, from industrial processes or from hospitals, etc., nature-based solutions have certainly its limits. Yeah. Also, if you need to defend a certain structure or nuclear power plant from flooding, so maybe a concrete wall is not a bad idea either. So it's not about green only. It's really about finding the best blend of green and gray solutions to meet the objectives that we want to meet. This is also, scale is very important, and you see here, depending on the flood size and the flood magnitude, and in different scales of the catchment, different solutions work differently, but particularly if we have very large floods and very large scale, nature-based solutions certainly have their limits. Why do we discuss this in a report that this is an untapped resource? Nature-based solutions are nothing new really, and I think one of the previous speakers mentioned that we talk about solutions that have been sometimes there for thousands of years. We sometimes reinvent the wheel, but we still believe it's an untapped resource. We try to estimate how much of the current investment in the water sector go to nature-based solutions versus to more classical, you might want to call it gray infrastructure engineering, and it's probably less than 5% at the moment that goes into infrastructure, into green solutions. It's very difficult to estimate that number exactly, but we feel it's the total investment still is lagging behind very significantly if you compare it with more traditional water management solutions. And it's not about green versus gray. It's the best blend of green and gray solutions that can do the job, that can really help to solve the existing problem. And no way I wanted to advocate only that green solutions can be always the solution, but it's really about maximizing the benefits. Sorry, this pointer doesn't like me. Maximizing the benefits with the right blend of solutions. Also, was mentioned by one of the previous speakers was the co-benefits, and they often can tip the investment decision from a classical, traditional